Old school Foxbody meets modern EFI. In this video, I'm walking you through the full install of Holley's Terminator X system on my 93 GT. From ripping out the wiring system to that glorious or not so glorious first fire up. This is everything I wish I knew before I got started, so stick around. Tuning a stock ECM on a Foxbody Mustang is kind of like trying to stream Netflix over dial-up. It's slow, unreliable, and wildly frustrating. After years of stacking up performance mods on my 93 GT, the factory computer just would not keep up anymore. So that's why I finally made the jump and I installed Holley's Terminator X EFI system. So first, let's start with the parts. I purchased Holley's Terminator X Mustang 5.0 kit. That's part number 550-937F. It comes with all the right injector and sensor connectors, a wideband O2, and enough harness length to mount the ECU under the passenger seat, which is clean and easily accessible. But fair warning, this isn't a plug-and-play affair because Holley uses GM-style sensors. And I also needed a few extras, including a 3-bar map sensor, a 100-pound oil pressure sensor, and a CAN to USB cable, so I could do all the tuning for my laptop. Oh, I also picked up their new Bluetooth module specifically for the Terminator X to be able to tune from my iPad wirelessly, which is way better than the 3.5-inch touchscreen that they provide. And since I live in Florida, I definitely wasn't giving up my AC. So I added the Current Performance AC Control Kit. And of course, I grabbed the usual support items such as vacuum hose kits, zip ties, shrink wrap, and practically enough wiring connectors to open a Radio Shack. Who writes this crap? Okay, screw this. Let's get into it. If you've got a 90 to 93 Mustang like mine, the fuel pump wiring layout is a bit different from the earlier models. And if your car has airbags, well, you got some more extra fun ahead. I started by pulling the passenger seat out, yanking the crusty EEC4 computer from the kick panel, and slowly working out the old harness out of the car. Here's a tip. Label every sensor plug you disconnect. I know it's tedious, but trust me, your future self will thank you. There are two key plugs to remember in this process. The green one in the kick panel, which is connector 216, that handles power for the fuel pump and triggers the AC. Note, on the earlier models, this plug will be under the driver's seat. And the tan plug on the driver's side fender well, connector C1110, that carries your ignition switched power and dash inputs for the sensor signals. So if you're going to be running your stock dash, you'll definitely be using that plug. Now here is where I made my life a little harder. Years ago, I tucked the OEM harness into the fender wells. So I basically had to jack up the car, pull the inner fender wells out, and fish the whole thing out from both sides. It was totally brutal. Removing the harness from the engine bay just requires taking off the upper intake plenum for the injector loom and to disconnect the rest of the sensors around the motor. And note, tape up your intake port. You definitely don't want to be dropping anything down there. All right, so here's where I'm at. I am about 4.5 hours into this project right now, and normally it would not take this long. It's just because I had all of the wiring inside the fender wells that added about another 1.5 hours to the project. So let's see where I'm at. I am about ready to just go ahead and pull all of the wiring out of the car. But don't be scared by what you see next. All right, so here's where I'm at. I have all of the wiring harness about ready to pull out. Everything from the ignition coil side to the ECM to all of the mass airflow injectors, and everything is all unplugged. Everything is labeled. As you can see, I got labeled up to where which plug was what, just in case I have to strip out any wiring and reuse it. So I'm ready to get this out of here. Before I could install the new harness, I had to deal with the extras, starting with the air conditioning. You'll be cutting into the old harness to remove the relay, switches, and trigger wires to make the AC functional again. I know what you're thinking. This looks like an absolute mess. Well, it is. This is the original wiring harness, of course, and the aftermath after I stripped out most of what I need, which is the AC, clutch, and switch wiring, which is all right there. And I know it looks a little messy right now, but it's not really too bad. This was the trigger for the low pressure switch, which went to, let's see here, which actually goes to a relay, which then goes to wiring for the ECM to trigger on and off. And then also the trigger wire for the control switch, which is by the kick panel. And last but not least, this is the wire that just actually goes to the AC clutch itself. So it's really not too bad. It's just piecing it together and figuring out what goes to where. My airbag sensor loom was a lot easier because it's not integrated in the harness. It's just taped in and raveled around. So after some careful unwrapping and wire tracing, I had it all cleaned out. Things are moving along here, and this is the wiring harness with all of my new wiring grafted in. And I tell you what, I ended up going with the current performance kit here and integrated into the new wiring harness. As you can see, this is the current performance stuff that I basically just grafted in to the harness all the way up. You have to imagine like this section right here is about where the kick panel with the old ECM would sit. So the length going down to the new Terminator X underneath the seat is there, and then everything else going out the firewall is here. Also, I grafted in my airbag wiring harness too as well, which is all good. And then also there's an inputs and outputs harness that Holley provides for the Terminator X, which I grafted into as well. So I got all of these grafted in, ready to get through the firewall. So things are gonna start moving along here pretty dang quick now. Oh, and one thing that I'd like to point out on the AC wiring, if you're curious about doing the AC wiring, it's pretty simple. The Holley ins and outs. There's your AC kick and then shutdown triggers, which go right into the current performance wiring harness. And then that wiring harness also includes the switch for the AC. It also includes the AC request, which is from your controls, and then a ground. And it's got the relay and a fuse, and that's about it. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing going and get her back in. At this point, I also added output wiring for my fan control and boost pressure sensor. If you're ever planning to use the optional inputs and outputs on the Holley harness, do yourself a favor and run them now while everything is accessible. Surprisingly, feeding the new harness through the firewall was actually kind of satisfying, especially compared to the tangled mess I just pulled out. Also, I reused the OEM grommet just by slicing it along the side and putting it onto the new harness, and then just carefully pushing everything through. Also, if you're running the external 3-bar map sensor, just mount it in the engine bay and connect your vacuum to it from your engine. But maybe you're not doing that and you're just using the internal 1-bar map on the ECU, then you'll need to run the vacuum line through the firewall to the Terminator X. But once the new harness was completely in, I started wiring everything up and plugging things in, including the injectors, TPS sensor, and so on. And overall, the layout is much cleaner and it's light years beyond the stock wiring. All right, so because wiring can be a little daunting when you're doing a project like this, I want to walk you through every single piece on this and where it goes, just so you have a clean install and you have a good frame of mind if you're thinking about doing this. First, I'm going to start with the positive and negative on this car. This comes out, this will go around. I will actually run this up and around the front of the car to the battery right there. So that's a pretty simple one there. And then there's a loose wire, a red and white wire here. And it's for a points output, which I won't be using. And then also there's a 12-volt battery fuel wire. And that will actually get ran with the positive all the way around and up to the battery directly. Next I have, I'm gonna walk and go through this side right here. Next we have the injector harness wiring, which I don't have that plugged in right now, but it's just basically the wiring to all the injectors. On this side I have a manifold air temperature sensor, which is pretty easy there. Next is the TFI for the ignition. So I'm going to be running the factory Ford TFI, and it has the factory Ford plug with it. And then it also has this white wire that's coming off of it, and the white wire will run over to my ignition coil on the negative side. That actually is what triggers the ignition coil right there. It's the signal. But you'll also have to run a positive triggered ignition trigger wire to that as well for the positive side. I wish they would have gave that in this kit. So when the ignition kicks on, it provides power to the coil. So you'll have to run that separately. Next is the limb coming over on this side, which are just basically a bunch of sensors. We have the oil pressure switch. We have the fuel pressure, which is actually, it's not necessarily to get the car started. I'm gonna run this to my pressure regulator, so I am gonna run it, but you don't have to have this. This is an extra. Then we have the O2 sensor harness, which will run down to the O2s. Then we have the coolant temperature sensor. The idle air control, which uses the factory Ford idle air control plug, which is nice. Then we have the map sensor, which this has to be repinned for the new map sensor, but they give you all the tool to do that, and they explain how to do it in the kit. And then, last but not least, is the throttle position sensor. Now, this has a GM style plug on it, so if you're using your factory Ford throttle position temperature sensor, you'll have to cut this off and wire it in for the new one. And they give you various little plugs in here to plug in. Last but not least is, I don't know if I mentioned this, was loose wires here for inputs and outputs. I ran this up, and I'm gonna block this off because the outputs actually have outputs to trigger dual electric fans, and there's also inputs for here for giving other signals if you wanna run other sensors to signal into the Terminator X to monitor. And then I have the wiring harness, which, where did it go? It's over here somewhere. Oh, here it is. For my AC system. This is from that current performance kit that I got. And basically it just has the low pressure switch wires, and then it's got the actual clutch switch wiring for it too as well. So there's that. That is everything that's under the hood of this installation. Next up was power for the system, which includes the main positive and negative of the battery, and also the ignition coil wires, green for the switch 12 volts and white for the distributor signal. And this is where I used the red and green stripe wire from connector C110 to tie it into the 12 volt switch power for the coil. And again, that plug also handles the coolant temp, oil pressure, and tach signals to the OEM gauge cluster. So if you want to keep your factory gauges working, now will be the time to run those extra wires from the sensors. Lastly was the red fuel pump power wire, which was a little trickier because it's not clearly called out in any of the instructions. But the red 12 volt fuel pump wire needs to run straight to the battery with the Terminator X power. But once everything in the engine bay was connected and grounded, it was finally time to head inside the car. Interior wiring is the final stretch. Okay, so it looks a little messy, but it's not too bad. To give you the rundown of what's going on in here, we first have the fuel pump trigger wire. This is actually going to get plugged into that factory harness And this is for the 91 to 93 models only. Now, if you have anything earlier than that, you'll have to run it to the fuel pump relay that's underneath the seat on the driver's side, but not on this version. This is actually right here on this car. Next, we have the chassis ground, black wire. We also have a 12-volt switch, another 12-volt switch, which, again, I wish there would have been a 12-volt power switch or something to wire that went to the outside for the coil. That would have been really nice. But we'll wire that in. Next, I have my current performance ignition, my AC wiring over here. This is the fuel pump relay. Got that in there. This is that input outputs plug. Basically, the input outputs that I just showed you out there. This is the plug for it. And then a CAN bus plug too as well for a CAN bus signal, which I'm going to be using that later for some cool stuff, which you guys will see in some later episodes. And then as we look at the Terminator X here, we have all the plugs to the Terminator X in. We got the battery, power and negative, and of course the vacuum line. I'll get all of this ran underneath the carpet really nice, looking really tucked up in here and tidy. And that is it. So I ran the remaining switch power wire for the Terminator X and the AC from the kick panel to the fuse box and attached it with a 30-amp fuse connector. And then I tied the fuel pump trigger and the AC clutch trigger wire to that green plug, connector 216 at the kick panel. Just remember, for your fuel pump, you're connecting to the green and yellow wire, and for the AC, you're connecting to the purple wire. So, with the chassis ground wire secured, ECU mounted, and the CAN cable plugged in, the system is officially live and ready for its first breath. Now, the system is officially live and ready for its first breath. Well, not quite yet. I still had to set up the wizard and build a tune for the car. But setting up the Holley tuning wizard is about as easy as it gets. Just walk through the prompts, such as setting up your engine size, your injectors, your power adder type, maybe a cam profile, and so on. In just a few minutes, you've got a base map loaded and it's ready to fire. Well, actually, not yet. There's still one more thing to do, and this is huge, and it's not explained in the instructions. If you're using a stock Ford IEC valve, there's one critical step you have to do, and that's manually change the IEC settings in the desktop software. So I fired up Holley software and updated the settings to set the IEC type to Ford, and then I changed it from a stepper to PWM. And then on the Outputs tab, move the IEC output to pin number 4. Save it, upload it to the Term-X, done. Without this step, your car may crank forever and idle like complete garbage. With it, you're golden. Finally, the moment has arrived. I double-checked everything, took a breath, and turned on the key. It's coming on. The wizard is powering up. Cool deal. Okay, if I go to my monitor, and I should go to monitors here, I should have sensors. Cool. Alrighty. Okay, so we've already did the fuel pump. So back on sensors, so I should be able to start it up now. Let's try this out. Ooh, I had that way back. Okay. Oh, that was one attempt. All right, let's try it again. All right, this time I'm gonna give it a little gas and just see what it does. It's trying. Let's try this again. Whew, I probably should open up my garage door because it's a little fumy in here. Whew, okay, baby. All right, baby, you can do it. I'm holding the throttle down right now. It's trying to figure it out now. All right. Whew, it is running rich. All right, let's get some air in here. It cranked and cranked, then sputtered and died. I drained my battery a little bit. Then it finally started up and ran, but not great. And then it wouldn't start back up. And it cranked over and over and over. I spent several hours chasing my tail until I learned it was those IAC settings not configured correctly. But once I fixed that, okay. Here in the fuel pump prime up, that's good. All right, let's go to monitor. Let's go to gauges, idle, sensors, map, 105. Okay, let's just try starting up and see what happens. Now it's wanting to start to learn. Oh wow, here we go. Now we're in business. My foot is not on the... Yes! Look at that. That's actually sounding good now. Wow, this is great. This is perfect. Oh my gosh. Map sensors reading at 47 kPa. Throttle position. Yes. All right. Now it's time for some custom tuning. Haha. Yes. Let's go walk around and look at it. So, I did my final checks for leaks and loose wiring and hit the road. I've pretty much got the IAC figured out here, and it was a lot of the settings that I had to adjust on the desktop. I had to change the style from being a stepper to I think a PWM, and then also park the IAC on a pin, which I'll show you guys a screenshot of that if you want to see it. But anyways, it still is cranking a few times before it starts up. It's much better. The quality of the idle is much better. I think I need to pull back a little bit on the fuel enrichment and maybe a little bit on the timing on cranking, but besides that, it's pretty good. There's the fuel pump. Ooh, I lied. It's not good. I think it needs more fuel. I haven't primed at 2 seconds right now. See, there it goes. Sounds good though. Here's some of the readings on it, if you can see that at all. I don't know if you can or not. Let me just touch the screen here, get a little, there you go. It's not wanting to stay focused on it. Showing a yellow light on my fuel pressure. It's saying 38 on the fuel pressure, but at the gauge it's actually reading 43. So I think I'm going to bump it up just a touch more just to get it accurate on here. Check my IAC real quick and then we'll roll. IAC position's 28. On warm, when the car's completely warm, it should be around 6 to 7%, but obviously it's cold right now. The engine coolant temp is at 112 degrees, so it's really cold. It's got a lot of high air fuel ratio at 14 right now. So anyways, we'll just go cruise a little bit with it. One of the things that this really cleared up that I noticed was the fact that when the car was cold, it would have a bit of a surge to it. And yesterday when I was driving it, I noticed it didn't do that at all. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so nice. That's gonna be so nice if that's cleared up. No surging, no bucking, loving it. It used to do like, It is smooth, man. It is smooth. And I'm sitting at still coolant temps up to 140 now. So it's starting to get there, but still none of that, you know, weird surging, bucking, or strange deceleration where sometimes it felt like it would just come hard off a deceleration. Or when you let off and you're just sitting at a stoplight and it doesn't want to idle correctly, all that's good now. Like, I mean, I'm gonna sit here and idle with it. It's just really nice and smooth, really nice and smooth. Let's get this going. Oh yeah, damn, that feels good. Feels really good. Throttle response is super snappy now. I mean, not that it wasn't before, but it just feels like it's crisper, like there's more direct input for it now. Ooh, got a little water here. Did it rain over here? Huh. Interesting. It's one of the things about living in Florida is you get these little spot showers all around. So, oh yeah, it's raining like not too far from here. So I'm gonna make a quick turnaround, take it back to the garage, look at a few more tweaking things on the startup as far as fuel enrichment, probably fuel pump prime. I'll probably dial back that timing a little bit, maybe just a touch. Yeah, that's gonna be about it for right now. Oh, and also, I wanna show you guys the Bluetooth wireless setup for it. It is so cool. It is so rad. Like, actually being able to, instead of using this guy, to use my iPad and actually it be wirelessly controlled. So we'll get to the house and we'll take a look at that. Oh yeah. My kick panel fell out. Oh yeah. She feels good. She feels good. Yes. All right, so this is something that I was wanting to show you, and this is the Bluetooth module for the Holley Terminator X. It's specifically for the Terminator X. And as you can see, the blue light is on. I've pressed the button so it's connected to my wireless device. You can connect this to a Windows phone, an iPhone, or what I have it connected to, which is my iPad. Pretty cool, right? So right now you can see it has the main dashboard with all my settings and all my sensor inputs. This has all of the same features as the 3.5 that you use to tune the car with and set up your wizard on. But as you can see, here's the 3.5 and here's the iPad. It is so much nicer. And also this has more robust interface graphics, such as for like your fuel. If I wanted to go into these settings and trim some fuel going on here, let's check out some enrichment stuff. Basic enrichment, advanced enrichment. Has a full graph here, which is just super nice. So many nice features on this. Very tunable. Very tunable. And also, it has your data logging that you can do as well. It has your setup wizard, so you can set up your wizard for your car with all the features. It is a hybrid between the desktop and the 3.5 interface. The only default is that if you have to go in to change like your settings like I did with this car with the IAC to change it from a stepper style to a PWM and then also drag it to a pin for the inputs and outputs, you don't have as robust and deep tuning capability as that, but you can do almost everything in this that you need to do to get your car running and do all your fine adjustments on. So really, really loving this from Holley. This was one of the coolest additions that I have for the Terminator X install in this car. Final thoughts? Installing the Terminator X on your Fox isn't some afternoon bolt-on job. It takes some patience, some planning, a few curse words, but when it all comes together and your car starts and idles and runs like something built in this century, it's 100% worth it. This system just doesn't upgrade your fuel injection. It rewires the way your Mustang behaves. And now that my Fox has the brain power to keep up with its build, I mean, who knows what's next? The options are wide open. So, thanks for watching, and good luck on your install. You've got this.